In a previous video I explained what I had spec'd out and that I showed you my pile of parts. Now I'm going to dig in and get things unboxed and get started here. So first of all, I pulled it out of the box. This is my new ANTEC case. They call this one a P10 Flux, and I bought it because for power. First of all, it's got a door that you can reverse, but it has 3 fans and a filter in the front that'll draw air through. The buttons are up on top, which for me is maybe not quite as convenient, but they're up on top and they have rubber plugs to keep dust out of the USBs. I've already taken out the thumb screws, but the panel's got good insulation, sound insulation in it. This is the back side of the 3 fans, and then my radiator will go in here. They have a fan in the bottom that perhaps it pulls air in. Based on the direction of the blades, I would say that. So interesting. We'll have to see how that one goes. The power supply will go in the bottom. There's a fan here for air going out. And if I turn it around, the other side has a... Take the panel off, and it has an air intake here with a filter and more sound deadening. And then there's a fan controller for all the fans, and a set of cables that runs down from the buttons. There's a bay down here. One hard drive can go in and one can go on top. And then there's space for a couple more smaller 2.5-inch drives like SSDs. So the motherboard will go on the other side, the hard drives will mount on this side, and cables can get routed. Power supply will go in here on the bottom. There was a package of screws that were in the hard drive bay, so I got screws to assemble everything. Then this one, pull out of the box, is the Pure Loop 2 is the radiator. It comes with its own set of fans, and I guess the interesting part will be whether I use the existing fans that are in here that came with the case, or whether I choose to replace them with the fans with the cooler. I don't know if it's better to have 2 sets of fans on the cooler or just one, and pushing through. So there's the unit. This end is what goes on to the processor. Slide the cardboard off here. So you end up with that radiator, and then you can attach the fans to it. One of the things that was attractive about this one is that most of these are sealed systems, but this one's got a screw on it so that you can fill it if it gets low, if it loses coolant. And they give you a bottle of coolant in the package to refill it with. In the box they provide, looks like a nice selection of screws for attaching the radiator, long ones that look like for attaching the fan to the radiator, some selection of some jumper wires, and then brackets and thermal compound for mounting mounting this to the CPU. I would have liked, from some of what I've looked at, I would have liked it if I could mount the radiator this way with the lines at the bottom, but there isn't enough room in the case to do that, and I don't think the lines are long enough to reach up here to where the CPU is anyway. From studies I've done, it looks like mounting the radiator in the front where it gets cool air first is the right thing to do. Some places have suggested that when you put the tubes at the top, that you run the risk of pulling in air bubbles into the tubing and causing noise. But as I look at this one, this design has a pretty good sized header tank, and the tubes are not all the way at the top of the header. They're a little bit below. So I think there's room for some air to be, if there was air, to be there. And then with the port, I think I can pull this out from time to time, like if it would get noisy, and bleed the air out of it and refill with the bottle here. According to the bottle, it's propylene glycol and water. I don't know what the mix is, other than it says antifreeze to -5°C. So it's apparently a mild propylene glycol solution. Anyway, so that's our radiator. The motherboard is probably next. And this is one of their gaming, Gigabyte's gaming motherboards. And it's in a nicely sealed bag. I'm not going to open the bag yet. These are anti-static bags, so we don't want to take this out until we're ready to bolt it in. The nice thing is that it looks like the way the case is manufactured, there's an opening, and I can reach the bottom of the motherboard with the board installed, because there are certain brackets that we have to put on for the cooler, and I need to decide what order or sequence I'm going to install things. So there's the motherboard. Let's see what else they give me in the box here. They didn't print out an owner's manual. It's just it provides some information, but basically they did not provide a driver disk. They did not provide an install manual. You have to go, they've got QR codes in here, so I suppose I can probably look up online, but I will probably go, before I get too far here, use my laptop and download a PDF of the service manual. And there's a couple of SATA cables. I'll have to figure out what a couple of these things do. Some screws. It does have wireless, and it looks like an antenna for the wireless. The G connector looks like it's goes for hooking up wires from the case to the motherboard. And with the heat sinks, that's a heavy board, which is a good thing. Alright, so this is the power supply. I'm going to need that fairly quickly also. So I removed the plastic. Before I open this up, let's just do a... See, I talked about in my last video about power supplies and power curves. So this one is a gold rated, 80 plus gold, and so 80%'s down here. The orange line is for 115 volts. So at half load, the efficiency is about 90%. When you get down to 20%, say what is that, about 15%, it's at 86. And then as you go down, it's going to drop, but it's always, and even at 10%, they don't give you the data point, but it's probably around 85%, which is it's a pretty good curve for a, I mean, you could pay more and get a couple more percent with a platinum or something, but that's one of the other things this one advertises is silent fan control. It's got a couple of fan modes on the power supply itself. So installation information, installation guide for the power supply and how to plug it in. Okay. And a user manual. It's fairly simple, but that's alright. Got some straps for tying down cables, some wire ties. Not sure what this guy is yet. It has 2 pins in it. It's an empty connector with 2 pins in it. So maybe that's there's something on that says it's got a test device. Maybe that's it. There's the cord. Alright, and this is a bag with all of the plugs in it, which we will open up as we need to. But it looks like it's well provisioned. I have to say, give them credit. I mean, everything comes in these nice little bags. Seasonic, I mean, that's a... I've not used a Seasonic branded power supply before. I think I may have had some that were manufactured by them under a different name. Somebody else rebranded them. But they have a good reputation, and like this one, if it's got a 10-year warranty on it, it's likely to be pretty good. So there's the power supply itself. That's the fan switch if you want to change modes. It's got a nice sized fan in it. And a whole set of connector ports. So far looking pretty good. Okay, we'll set that aside for the moment. I'm going to take a look at the video card. So this is a GeForce NVIDIA based RTX 4070, which is a pretty darn capable card. It's a nice box. Let's see what we got in here. So what they want me to do is take it out of the box, like so. And it's labeled unpacking steps, and so it's got a pictorial here. What I'm going to do is lay it out sideways. I'm almost running out of table here. It's a pretty fancy package. So that's the card. It's got pretty good plastic covering over it. But that's okay, and they've got some nice plugs in here in the ports. one HDMI and 3 DisplayPort. So it could potentially drive 4 different monitors. 2 fans, a big radiator, and it has a single PCIe plug for it, 8 pins, which should be easy enough. Some cards have 2, and you know, in the past I've bought AMD ATI Radeon cards. I've had a bunch of them, but it's like everything else, you know, I look at things in each generation. The GeForce cards were a touch more expensive, but their feature content was a little better, and the power consumption was lower. You know, on the video card it was 20 or 30 watts at power, which is quite a bit. So I paid just a skosh extra and bought this one. And ASUS, or ASUS, I bought a lot of their parts before. I use their routers almost exclusively, and you know, they generally make good things. So there's a protective film to remove. I'm not going to remove it quite yet, but just from a quality standpoint, I mean, they've even got a cover plate over the connectors, so that, and the back plate here is stainless steel, and it looks like the fans are intended to, well, some heat will vent out the bottom, but this one has got vents out the back, and so a fair amount of heat ought to come out the rear also. And again, my comments about static, you know, we don't want to touch those pieces. This one's not in an anti-static bag, but it's protecting, so we don't want to touch the terminals, the contacts, and we don't want to take that off until we're ready to install it, and I'm on my anti-static map. A little advertising about their fan system, a warranty card, a thank you card, thank you for purchasing. Looks like a little stand-up, it's kind of like a little display, and a quick start guide for how to connect, plug everything in. And it's in multi-languages, so not a lot of instructions, but not a lot are needed. So, alright, set that one aside. I guess I can open up the processor here. I'm going to cut the tape on that one. Again, not quite ready to install it, but let's open up and see what we got. Kind of a big box. Certificate of authenticity, 3-year warranty, installation instructions, place to record the serial number, and that's what this is what it looks like. Looks like they put some little finger tabs on these on this version, 7900X, and they've not done these before. This one is, when we look at the back, it doesn't have a forest of pins. It's, the contacts are, you know, it looks like it's a forest of little gold contacts, whereas the older processors would be like a brush. I mean, you'd have a whole stack of pins, and the risk was always that you bent a pin and wasted the processor because it had a pin missing. So this one has got a different design, different style socket on the motherboard apparently. This is one of the hard drives. I bought 2 terabyte ones. I wanted to have enough storage space, so I paid a little extra to get, you know, the latest, fastest version. These are the latest, fastest solid-state hard drives for this kind of an application. This is an SN850X NVMe SSD. And they make these in a couple different varieties. The older ones actually were a SATA type. And this is an NVMe. What do they call these? It's a 2280, I believe is the... And this device, I have two of these, and that device will install right on the motherboard. And then the last one here, or nearly last one, this is the memory from its GSkill memory. And there are a lot of good brands for all of these things. Over time, I've tended to migrate in a certain direction. I've had good success, so I keep doing it. And I've been using GSkill memory for 15 years or so. And so far, I've never had one fail me. So this is what they look like. These are the latest. These are specific to AMD with this type of processor. Those are the numbers on them. And so it's a pair of 32 gigabyte modules with a fairly fast clock rate. So the CL30s, which was, I almost bought some that were CL40s, which would be slower. Generally you want the smaller number. And it cost me a few dollars more again to get a little bit faster memory. But so these are DDR5 6000s. I got just about everything out here. Oh, the last one is, because I'm doing video work, a lot of people are no longer doing optical drives, but I bought an LG DVD writer, Blu-ray and DVD writer. And it's very helpful to have one of these once in a while for, well, two things. One is to read discs, and the other is Blu-ray has a pretty good capacity. I'm not going to open this one up right now. I'll open that up when we dig in here. I bought a case that had a bay for it, because many of the new cases do not.